Welcome to Here's My Thing, everybody. My name is Frankie Salazar, and boy, does it feel good to be back. Now, for avid viewers of this show, not even 100 of you, in fact, I know the majority of you, your friends and family members and whatnot, but we all know that I've always said it, I'm not a good social media person. Like, I probably, by if any stroke of luck, would never be able to turn something like this into a career because I have like absolutely zero consistency when it comes to social media because frankly I hate it. But you don't get to hate it at the same time and then try to be like a talking point and try to be a social media influencer or whatever the terminology is now. And we all know that, like sometimes I'll be so locked in. I'll be so locked in that I'll have like 8 to 10 episodes out in a single month, right? Like I'm locked in, I'm filming every day, editing the next day, uploading it the following day, and then I will like fall off the face of the planet for like 2.5, 3 months at a time. And it's unfortunate that I've had this show for a little over 10 months now, and we only have about 30 episodes out. But don't worry, guys. I am happy to report that I am back and locked in, hopefully, because I have a whole bunch of videos that are like pre-recorded from like weeks ago that aren't on any particular topic that we can go ahead and upload in the near future. But anyhow, all that to say, long monologue aside, we're going to be talking about something very controversial and at the same time, my favorite topic being none other than Nicki Minaj. Now, for those of you who know me, it is no surprise that when it comes to Nicki Minaj, I proudly quote myself as being the head barb, like we covered in my Nicki Minaj is the greatest of all time rapper ever, male or female, dead or alive, where we go ahead and in that video, it's super fun. And that is actually the single largest TikTok of mine that got an astounding nearly 150,000 views and almost 30,000 likes. And on YouTube, it's not my biggest episode on YouTube, but it definitely is a really fun one. So I recommend you go and check that out, where we go ahead and we break down some of my favorite Nicki Minaj bars. But Nicki Minaj, unfortunately, cannot stay out of the limelight and stay out of trouble this year, it seems, from all of her controversies ranging from that of Jay-Z, Desiree Perez, I forget the football player's name, something. And then we have she took shade at Beyonce at times. And then we have Cardi B, of course, SZA. She is just going in the ranks, just coming out swinging for every single person this year. And up next on the chopping block isn't actually going to be a beef, but it's controversial because Nicki Minaj may or may not have thanked the President of the United States, being none other than Donald Trump, of course, as we all know. And now everybody is saying that Nicki, even the president himself, is now saying that she is MAGA. So, for those of you that missed it, on the 1st of November, in the wee hours of the morning, I want to say it was just before 4 a.m. on the 1st of November, Nicki tweeted to the president after he had made a post saying, quote, "Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a, quote, country of particular concern. But that is the least of it. When Christians or any such group is slaughtered like this is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide, something must be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with the chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and report back to me. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. We stand ready, willing, and able to serve our great Christian population around the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America." So after he made that tweet, Nicki responded saying, "Reading this made me feel a deep sense of gratitude. We live in a country where we can freely worship God. No group should ever be persecuted for practicing their religion. We don't have to share the same beliefs in order for us to respect one another." And that extends past religion, in my opinion. "Numerous countries around the world are being affected by this horror, and it's dangerous to pretend that we do not notice. Thank you to the president and his team for taking this seriously. God bless every persecuted Christian. Let's remember to lift them up in prayer." So, Nicki is more or less seeing that President Trump is taking it very seriously of what most are calling a genocide of Christians in the country of Nigeria in Africa. Now, call it what you want. You could call it an ethnic cleansing. You could say that it's just particular terrorist groups doing yada, yada, yada to Christians. Let's just call a spade and say that a genocide is happening to the Christian faith. Now, I may sound a little bit biased because I grew up a Christian as well. And the thing about it is people are going to try to spin this and make it seem as though just because the Nigerian government is saying that Christians are not being genocided, we should just take their word for it. Even though all of us have X on our phones, we have Instagram, we have YouTube, we have our very own congressmen that are saying this is happening. We see the videos coming out of the churches that are being burned down by terrorism. And whether it's a genocide or not, the Nigerian government seems totally complicit in this. And after that, after Nicki bravely, in my opinion, bravely spoke out against the persecution of Christians as any normal civilized Christian in a Christian nation such as America should, she was credited as the first female rapper. Again, you know, my girl's always breaking history, making history. She became the first female rapper to be invited to speak at the United Nations conference in regards to the Christian prosecution. Now, of course, as we can all imagine, that after this happened, the response was, well, unfortunate and less than desirable because anything attached to President Trump is just evil and null and void. And we all know how I feel about that nonsense. Everything is so nonsensical when it comes to him, and that the point that even when Nicki Minaj, who's just saying that, hey, maybe we shouldn't murder Christians, thank you, President Trump, for bringing light to this matter, is going to cause people to say things like this. We have this person whose @ is Hive Coven, and their name on X is Supernova, and they're verified. They probably pay for that. This person tweets out, "You're not even American. Get out of our country." And somebody named Eileen Superstar says, exactly. She's trying to keep from getting deported, LOL. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I am just totally blissfully unaware at the fact that liberals are now the ones that are advocating for immigrants, especially undocumented ones such as Nicki Minaj herself, to be deported, because I thought that we had no borders, they didn't matter, and we wanted to just, keep everybody here because that's what we do as Americans until you disagree with them. And now we have these literal racists coming on here and telling the Queen, Nicki Minaj, that she needs to, quote, get out of our country. Then we have some people who are a little more sensible about it, who say, I get the message, of course, but girl, not Trump with Trisha Paytas crying in the GIF. Now, that one's a little bit better because they're not necessarily calling for the deportation of the Queen Nicki Minaj, who pays more money in taxes than most of these losers will ever see in their generation's life existence on planet Earth. But it still pisses me off a little bit that they're saying, I get it, girl. Like, I totally get the message. Like, yeah, like maybe we shouldn't murder Christians, but like, why does it take Trump to tell us not to do that? Like, why would you thank him of all people? Whatever. Then we have some sensible people who, just are totally down with her messaging and are going to be sticking by her side, particularly because Nicki Minaj is a Christian woman. More on that later. So then, everybody knows about the what's up / bees in the trap trend right now with the whole, where they're mixing the songs and everything. I'll go ahead and play a video here in just a second of what I mean. But it absolutely blew up to the point where after Nicki Minaj had thanked the president, the official White House TikTok account had done their own version of it with Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump, and it is absolutely incredible. I'm only going to go ahead and play a couple seconds of it just so you could see what the actual trend is, because I don't want this video to get muted. So go ahead and take a look as to what I'm talking about. So then, after the White House is going on and doing that stuff, we now have Nicki Minaj, ever since we can imagine that she felt the pressure from these psychopathic racists that are trying to call for her deportation after just thanking the president for bringing light to the persecution of Christians. She's feeling the pressure of it. But do we forget that Mother is like the most masterclass rage baiter on planet Earth? Nicki is making this such a like funny, lighthearted thing because I think she frankly doesn't care. And the reason that she doesn't care is because, like I said, let's get into here's my thing on the whole topic, okay? Nicki Minaj is a devout Christian woman, and you can go ahead and say that maybe she doesn't operate like that in the limelight, seeing that she's a sex symbol and she swears and she talks about drugs and yada yada yada. But the good thing about Christianity is that Nicki, just like all of us, every single one of you watching, and myself included, all fall short of God's glory. Nobody's perfect, people. Please get over it. But Nicki Minaj, this is a woman who literally has "God is always with you" tattooed on her arm. Okay? So Nicki Minaj has always been a devout Christian and has never, ever strayed away from her faith. And I find it disgusting that literally calling out the persecution of Christians is going to be something that people are going to get mad at her about just because it came from the messaging of the President of the United States. So then, after that video of them doing the trend on the official White House TikTok, Nicki Minaj goes, "The President and the First Lady of the United States of America," with a whole bunch of exclamation points. She says, "Barbs, I don't know which one of you uploaded this to the White House TikTok, but just know unlimited backstage gag city for life." I don't know what timeline we're on right now. I'm just going with the flow with a whole bunch of laughing emojis and the American flag. Now, between us, the viewers, between us, I'm not the one that actually uploaded that. But between Nicki and I, girl, I'm the one that uploaded it, okay? I'm the one that hacked into the White House TikTok official account to put that video up there because I heard that you're giving Gag City backstage unlimited passes. So... Now, that's the backstory of everything. That's the main story of how Nicki Minaj thanked the president, got invited to the UN, and yada yada. And we already talked about how the White House had put out their own TikTok to the "What's Up Bees in the Trap" trend. But there's one video I also, before we continue on, and here's my thing, that I want to go ahead and show you guys. It's an AI of Trump's voice doing a Nicki Minaj song. So again, go ahead and take a look as to what the president did with this video.
Starships were meant to fly, hands up and touch the sky.
So all that aside, we kind of already went into here's my thing about Nicki Minaj being a Christian. So it's only logical that when she sees something of an African country where there is an ethnic cleansing, genocide, killing, whatever you want to call it, terrorism upon Christians, of which she is part of, it only makes sense that she would go ahead and thank whomever, particularly the most powerful man in the world, for bringing light to that situation. Secondly, Nicki is not a devout MAGA person, but she's also not a devout Democrat either. We have Nicki in her song saying, you know, in that song with Future where she goes, "Got that blue diamond dancing in the party, Democratic," you know. So we have that one where she talks about being a Democrat. But then we also have years ago when she redid Mercy with Kanye West where she goes, "I'm a Republican voting for Mitt Romney. You lazy bitches are effing up the economy." Okay? Then we have other ones recently where she goes, "Made my ass great again, MAGA." But then we also have plenty of other instances where Nicki kind of goes after the Republicans, she kind of goes after the Democrats, she kind of uses whoever's in politics in the moment to kind of like make a rap song out of it. You know, like she goes like, "These bitches biting like Joe," shout out to Camila Doe from Fractions, things like that. Okay, but people are trying to like use it. I see it on the Republican side where they're like, "Oh, look, Nicki said this in Mercy, and she said MAGA in this song." And then Democrats are like, "Okay, well, Nicki said Biden and Kamala in this song." And it's like, guys, Nicki is a very intelligent woman, far more intelligent than the soulless, nasty, just faceless, baseless people who have no conviction in their lives when it comes to like celebrities that would take money from the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. Nicki is very apolitical. She's never endorsed a candidate ever, as far as I'm aware of, and I would know, I'm the head barb. But my point is that we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this one article that I found from back in 2015 in Billboard. It came out on the 10th of December 2015, so nearly 10 years ago, where it's titled "Nicki Minaj Gets Political, Her Take on Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and Why the War on Drugs Has, quote, become slavery." So in that, Nicki says of Hillary Clinton, she says, quote, "I support her as a woman," Minaj tells Billboard. "Am I convinced that she should be the next president? I still want to be open-minded about everyone. Obviously, I identify with her struggles as a woman. I identify with the fact that when she's in that room, there are nothing but men there. There's sometimes something in her that must feel intimidated," yada, 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 yada. You can read the full clip and pause if you'd like. But my point is that was not an outright endorsement of the Democratic Party, and that probably, made a few people upset back then. I was far too young. But then on Donald Trump, again, it's not an endorsement, but she says that, quote, "There are points that he has made that may not have been so horrible if his approach wasn't so childish. I think we all, as Republicans or Democrats or whatever, can agree on that Trump, at this point he could say anything. And because, he has such a presidential way of saying it, that sarcasm, that, his message isn't going to be heard as clearly and concisely as it probably should, because he talks like an asshole. He talks like a frat boy. He thinks he's funny. I mean, he is. So much so that even Nicki says, quote, "But in terms of entertainment, I think he's hilarious. I wish they could just film him running for president. That's the ultimate reality show." So Nicki obviously has this to be very lighthearted, and she doesn't take politics to be a very big thing. She probably finds it to be very divisive, and especially being a woman, a very self-made, hard-working, earned woman who is an immigrant in the United States, it shouldn't be a shock to anybody that she may swing a little bit Republican on some policies and very Democratic on others. But my point is that Nicki's very apolitical. But first and foremost, whether she's MAGA or she's a Democrat or not, she is a Christian first. That is the whole point. She gives all glory to God. I mean, this woman has a gospel song on every single one of her albums, nearly every single one of her albums, and they're just so beautifully written. And one thing that Nicki has never, ever deviated from was her faith. So I, of course, as we all know, being a right-leaning person, I don't like the label of like Republican or conservative or anything like that. I guess if you wanted to force me to, I would say I'm a conservative or maybe even libertarian on a lot of things. But I've never shied away on that on this show. But I also don't like to make things overly political when they don't have to be. I just find it to be so egregious, and it's just like politics is in everything. I tried to make this show comedic, but the problem is everything is political. I could be talking about my favorite cereal, and I'll have some dumbass in my comments being like, "Oh, you're a Democrat? You're a liberal sissy?" And then I'll have, on the Republican side, and then I'll have some dumbass Democrat being like, "Well, you're a racist because you like Fruit Loops and not cocoa balls or whatever the hell they're called because they're black." And it's like, please give me a break here. But my point is that I'm happy to see that somebody as prolific and somebody as big as Nicki Minaj, of all people, is the one that's kind of going to be the turning point here when it comes to this madness that is the left just hating anybody that likes Donald Trump. She lost about 100,000 followers. Whoop-de-doo. She has almost 30 million. And I guarantee, just like that other girl, I'll go ahead and put her up on screen now. I can't remember her name, but when she went to the Charlie Kirk Memorial, she lost 100,000 followers as well, and then gained upwards of 200,000, if my math is correct or if I'm remembering correctly. So once Republicans get a hold of Nicki Minaj, it is game over for any leftist that wants to try to tear her and the Barbs down. Now, Barbs, listen, I know that Barb and Republican in the same sentence is a little bit paradoxical, a little bit oxymoronic, or for those of you that don't understand big words, a little bit, they're not one and the same. They're not synonymous. But I'm happy to report that being the head Barb, I was so pleased that as a right-leaning person and a Christian, that Nicki did not deviate from her faith here, and she's doubling down on thanking our president for bringing light to such a horrible tragedy taking place across the seas. Now, all that to say, this has been Here's My Thing starring Frankie Salazar. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I promise I'm back. I'm going to record, I think I have like 2 or 3 videos to record tonight, and I have so many in my phone that I still have to get out. So this month we are going to have a good amount going out. We're already at 20 minutes because I ramble. Hopefully you made it all the way to this end. And of course, as always, I would love to hear your thing. And please do remember to subscribe, like, and comment, particularly comment because I'd love to hear your thing. And subscribe to become a Baby Frank, where we're going to start I don't know what I want my subscribers to be called. I like Baby Franks, because I'm Frankie. You guys could be the Baby Franks. I don't know. We'll go ahead and work it out. But anyhow, I will see you guys in the next one. Mwah.